First contact. The starship Harmony glided silently through the inky void of space, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of a distant sun. Inside, Captain Alina Reyes stood at the bridge's panoramic viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the alien world growing larger before them. After decades of searching, humanity had finally made contact with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Status report, Alina commanded, her voice steady despite the nervous energy coursing through her. Her first officer, Commander Aiden Chen, responded promptly. All systems nominal, Captain. We're maintaining standard approach vector to the Zarkon homeworld. Their orbital defense grid is tracking us, but weapon systems remain inactive. Alina nodded, allowing herself a small smile. So far, so good. The Zarkon had responded positively to humanity's initial transmissions, expressing a cautious willingness to meet. Now, it was up to Alina and her crew to ensure this first face-to-face encounter went smoothly. Dr. Patel, Alina called out, turning to the ship's xenobiologist. Any final thoughts on our alien hosts? Dr. Sanjay Patel looked up from his data pad, his brow furrowed in concentration. The Zarkon are fascinating, Captain. From what little data we've gathered, they appear to be a highly regimented, hierarchical society. Their biology is radically different from our own. They reproduce through a form of parthenogenesis and lack the sexual dimorphism common to Earth species. Alina raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Meaning, Sanjay continued, that concepts like male and female don't apply to them. Each Zarkon is capable of producing offspring independently. It's likely they'll find many aspects of human biology. Strange, to say the least. Noted, Alina replied. Let's hope those differences don't become an issue. Our mission is clear. Establish peaceful relations and lay the groundwork for cultural and technological exchange. As the Harmony entered the planet's upper atmosphere, Alina felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The future of human-alien relations rested on the outcome of this meeting. The ship touched down on a massive landing pad in the heart of the Zarkon capital. Through the viewport, Alina could see rows of tall, slender aliens waiting to greet them. The Zarkon stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shimmered in the planet's blue-tinged sunlight. They lacked discernible facial features, save for 3 glowing orbs arranged in a triangle where a human's eyes and mouth would be. Showtime, Alina muttered, straightening her uniform. She turned to address her crew. Remember your training. Be respectful, be curious, but above all, be careful. We're making history today. As the airlock cycled open, Alina led her team out onto the alien world. The air was thick and humid, carrying scents of unfamiliar vegetation. A tall Zarkon, its scales shimmering with patterns that seemed to indicate high rank, stepped forward. Greetings, humans. The alien's voice resonated in Alina's mind, a product of the advanced translation technology both species had agreed to use. I am High Chancellor Exerlith. Welcome to Zarkon Prime. Alina bowed slightly, a gesture her team mirrored. Thank you, High Chancellor. I am Captain Alina Reyes of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn from one another. Exerlith's body shimmered, a reaction Alina hoped indicated positive emotions. Your journey must have been long. Please, follow me to the Hall of Communion. There is much to discuss. As they walked, Alina couldn't help but marvel at the alien architecture surrounding them. Spiraling towers of crystalline material stretched into the sky, while hovering vehicles zipped between them on invisible lanes of energy. The technological prowess of the Zarkon was evident everywhere she looked. Inside the Hall of Communion, Alina and her team were seated at a large, circular table. The Zarkon delegates arranged themselves on the opposite side, their bodies swaying gently in a way that reminded Alina of undersea plants. We have studied the information packet your species transmitted, Exerlith began. Your diversity intrigues us. How do you maintain cohesion with so many different forms? Alina smiled. Our diversity is our strength, High Chancellor. Different perspectives and abilities allow us to approach problems from multiple angles. It's at the core of our innovative spirit. The Zarkon delegates shimmered in what Alina was beginning to recognize as their form of communication. Xerlith's voice resonated once more. Fascinating. Yet it seems inefficient. Our uniformity allows for perfect consensus and coordination. With respect, Alina countered, uniformity can lead to stagnation. Our history shows that some of our greatest advancements came from individuals who thought differently from the majority. The discussion continued for hours, touching on topics ranging from governance to scientific research. Alina felt a growing sense of optimism. Despite their differences, it seemed humans and Zarkon could find common ground. As the meeting drew to a close, Xerlith made an unexpected proposal. Captain Rice, we would be honored if you and your crew would remain on Zarkon Prime for an extended cultural exchange. We have much to learn from one another. Alina's heart raced with excitement. This was more than she had hoped for. We would be delighted, High Chancellor. Thank you for your hospitality. As Alina and her team were led to their new quarters, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something momentous. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger galaxy, full of wonders and potential allies. Yet, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a note of caution. The road ahead would not be without its challenges. Little did Alina know, the greatest test of human-Zarkon relations was yet to come. A misunderstanding that would push both species to the brink of war and challenge everything they thought they knew about each other. The misunderstanding. Days turned into weeks as Captain Alina Reyes and her crew settled into life on Zarkon Prime. The cultural exchange progressed smoothly, with both species eager to learn from one another. However, beneath the surface of cordial diplomatic relations, tension simmered. Alina stood before a holographic display in the human quarters, reviewing the day's schedule. Commander Aiden Chen approached, his face etched with concern. Captain, we may have a situation, Aiden said, his voice low. Dr. Patel's latest report on Zarkon biology has raised some uncomfortable questions. Alina's brow furrowed. Explain. Aiden hesitated, choosing his words carefully. It seems the Zarkon have been intensely curious about human reproductive biology. They've been asking increasingly probing questions, particularly about male anatomy. That's to be expected, given their own unique biology, Alina replied. What's the problem? The problem, Aiden continued, is that they seem to have misinterpreted certain aspects of our anatomy. Specifically, they believe human males possess some kind of biological weapon. Alina blinked, momentarily stunned. A weapon? What gave them that idea? Before Aiden could respond, an alarm blared through the human quarters. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, Alert! Security breach detected. All personnel report to designated safe zones. Alina sprang into action, tapping her communication device. This is Captain Reyes. All crew, sound off. What's happening? Dr. Sanjay Patel's voice crackled through the comm. Captain, it's the Zarkon. They've stormed the medical lab. They're demanding access to our biological data and samples. Alina's mind raced. How had things escalated so quickly? Hold your position, Doctor. We're on our way. Aiden, assemble a security team. Non-lethal weapons only. We need to defuse this situation, not make it worse. As Alina and her team rushed through the winding corridors of the Zarkon facility, they encountered chaos. Alarms blared, and confused aliens scattered in all directions. Some regarded the humans with fear, others with open hostility. They'd reached the medical lab to find a tense standoff. A group of Zarkon security forces, their scales pulsing with aggressive patterns, had Dr. Patel and his team cornered. High Chancellor Xerlith stood at the forefront, his usually calm demeanor replaced by an agitated shimmer. High Chancellor, Alina called out, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. What is the meaning of this? We are guests on your world. here in the spirit of friendship. Exerlith's voice resonated with a mix of fear and anger. Friendship. You speak of friendship while concealing biological weapons. We trusted you, humans, and this is how you repay us. Alina's mind whirled, trying to piece together the misunderstanding. Weapons? High Chancellor, I assure you, we have brought no weapons to your world. There must be some mistake. Do not lie to us. Exerlith's body pulsed with color. We have seen the evidence. The appendage your males possess, a deployable, penetrating organ, clearly designed for combat and subjugation. How many other secrets are you hiding? Suddenly, the absurdity of the situation hit Alina. She struggled to maintain her composure, aware that laughing could worsen the already volatile situation. High Chancellor, I believe there's been a grave misunderstanding. The appendage you're referring to is not a weapon. It's a natural part of human male anatomy, used for reproduction. The Zarkon delegates shimmered in what Alina now recognized as their equivalent of confused murmuring. Exerlith's voice came again, tinged with skepticism. Reproduction. But it is external, vulnerable. How could such an impractical design be for reproduction? Dr. Patel stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. If I may, High Chancellor, human reproduction is very different from Zarkon parthenogenesis. We have two distinct sexes that must combine genetic material to produce offspring. The tension in the room shifted from hostile to bewildered. The Zarkon security forces lowered their weapons, their bodies swaying in confusion. Exerlith's voice came again, softer now. This changes everything. We had assumed, given the organ's shape and function, we thought it was designed to forcibly inject some sort of toxic or mind-controlling substance. Alina saw an opportunity to diffuse the situation further. High Chancellor, I understand how, from your perspective, our anatomy might seem strange or even threatening. But I assure you, we humans are as bewildered by some aspects of Zarkon biology. Perhaps this incident can serve as a lesson for both our species. We must not jump to conclusions based on our own preconceptions. Exerlith's body shimmered in what Alina hoped was agreement. Your words carry wisdom, Captain Rice. We have acted hastily, driven by fear and misunderstanding. On behalf of the Zarkon people, I offer our deepest apologies. As the Zarkon security forces withdrew, Alina felt a wave of relief wash over her. Crisis averted, for now. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this incident had exposed a deep well of mistrust and potential for conflict between their species. High Chancellor, Alina said, I believe it's clear that both our peoples have much to learn about one another. Perhaps we should establish a joint scientific commission, a team of human and Zarkon biologists working together to bridge the gap in our understanding. Exerlith's body pulsed with what Alina was beginning to recognize as enthusiasm. An excellent proposal, Captain. We shall make it so. And perhaps we should also establish clearer protocols for cultural and biological information exchange to prevent such misunderstandings in the future. As the tension in the room dissipated, replaced by a cautious optimism, Alina allowed herself a small smile. They had narrowly avoided disaster, turning a potential flashpoint into an opportunity for greater cooperation and understanding. Yet, as she looked around at her crew and their Zarkon hosts, Alina couldn't shake a nagging worry. They had resolved this misunderstanding, but what other cultural blind spots might they stumble into? And more concerningly, were there factions among both humans and Zarkon who might seek to exploit such misunderstandings for their own gain? As the impromptu meeting broke up and both species began to return to their quarters, Alina pulled her senior staff aside. I want a full review of all our cultural and scientific exchange protocols, she ordered. We got lucky this time. We might not be so fortunate in the future. Little did Alina know, her caution was well-founded. For even as humans and Zarkon worked to bridge their differences, shadowy forces on both sides were already plotting to turn those differences into weapons of war. Desperate measures. The aftermath of the biological weapon incident left a palpable tension in the air. Despite the efforts of Captain Elena Reyes and High Chancellor Xerlith to smooth things over, whispers and suspicions spread like wildfire among both humans and Zarkon. Elena sat in her makeshift office, rubbing her temples as she reviewed the latest reports. The Joint Scientific Commission had made progress in bridging the biological knowledge gap, but for every step forward, it seemed they took 2 steps back in other areas. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called out. Dr. Sanjay Patel walked in, his usual excited demeanor replaced by a grim expression. "Captain, we have a problem. A big one." Elena straightened in her chair. "What is it, Doctor?" Sanjay placed a data pad on her desk. "I've been analyzing some of the genetic data the Zarkon provided. There are inconsistencies, parts of their genome that don't make sense given what we know about their biology and evolution." "What are you saying, Sanjay?" Elena asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "I think," Sanjay hesitated, lowering his voice, "I think the Zarkon may have been artificially engineered. And recently, too. Within the last few thousand years." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. If true, this revelation could shatter the fragile peace they'd established. "Are you certain?" Sanjay nodded. "As certain as I can be without more data. But Captain, there's more. I found references in their historical database to another species, the Founders. They're revered almost as gods, but all records of them stop abruptly about 2,000 years ago." Before Elena could respond, her communication device buzzed urgently. It was Commander Aiden Chen. "Captain, you need to get to the main communications array immediately. We're picking up a transmission from Earth." Elena's heart raced as she and Sanjay rushed to the comm center. They arrived to find Aiden and a group of worried-looking crew members huddled around a holographic display. "Play it," Elena ordered. The hologram flickered to life, showing the stern face of Admiral Hawthorne, head of Earth's Space Command. "Captain Rice, your mission is hereby terminated. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately. The Zarkon have been classified as a potential threat to humanity. Diplomatic relations are suspended pending further review." Elena felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. "This doesn't make sense. On what grounds?" Aiden stepped forward, his face pale. "There's more, Captain. Our long-range sensors have detected a fleet of Earth ships entering the system. They're on an attack vector." For a moment, Elena stood in shocked silence. Then her training kicked in. "Lock down all our systems. Nothing gets transmitted without my express approval. Aiden, I need you to find High Chancellor Xerlith. Bring him here, quietly. Sanjay, gather all the data you have on the Zarkon genetic anomalies. We need to get to the bottom of this before it's too late." As her crew scrambled to follow her orders, Elena's mind raced. How had Earth found out about the Zarkon? Who had classified them as a threat, and why? And most pressingly, how could she prevent an interstellar war from breaking out? Hours later, Elena found herself in a secret meeting with High Chancellor Xerlith, Aiden, Sanjay, and a small group of trusted Zarkon scientists. The atmosphere was tense, with both sides eyeing each other warily. "High Chancellor," Elena began, "I need you to be completely honest with me. What do you know about the Founders?" Xerlith's body shimmered with what Elena had come to recognize as surprise and unease. "The Founders are sacred to our people, Captain. They guided us, shaped us, made us what we are today. But they left long ago, for reasons unknown." Elena took a deep breath. "We have reason to believe that the Founders didn't just guide your people. They created you, through advanced genetic engineering." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. The Zarkon delegates shimmered in agitation, their normally synchronous movements becoming erratic. Xerlith's voice, when it came, was filled with a mix of awe and fear. "If what you say is true, it would upend our entire understanding of ourselves, our history." "I'm afraid it gets worse," Elena continued. A fleet from Earth is on its way here, with hostile intentions. Someone has deemed your people a threat, possibly because of your engineered nature. The room erupted into chaos, with both humans and Zarkon shouting and shimmering in panic. Alina raised her voice above the din. Enough. We don't have time for this. If we don't act quickly, we'll have an interstellar war on our hands. Slowly, order was restored. Alina looked around the room, meeting the eyes and sensory organs of each being present. I have a plan, but it's risky. We need to uncover the truth about the Founders and broadcast it to both our peoples before the Earth fleet arrives. It's our only chance to prevent this conflict. Kazirlith's body pulsed with what Alina hoped was determination. What do you need from us, Captain? Access to your most sacred historical sites, Alina replied, and a small team of your best scientists and archaeologists. We're going to dig into your past and find out who the Founders really were. As the impromptu team began to form, Alina couldn't help but feel the weight of two civilizations resting on her shoulders. They had less than 48 hours before the Earth fleet arrived, and every second counted. One more thing, Alina added, her voice grave. What we're about to do goes against my direct orders. If we fail, best case scenario is that we'll be court-martialed. Worst case, we'll be responsible for starting a war. Is everyone prepared for those consequences? The room fell silent for a moment. Then, one by one, humans and Zarkon alike stepped forward, signaling their commitment to the cause. As they prepared to embark on their desperate mission, Alina allowed herself a small smile. In this moment of crisis, they had found a unity that transcended species. Now they just had to hope it would be enough to save both their worlds from the coming storm. Little did they know, the secrets they were about to uncover would shake the foundations of both human and Zarkon society, forever altering the course of galactic history. The truth revealed. The ancient Zarkon temple loomed before them, its crystalline spires reaching towards the alien sky. Captain Alina Reyes stood at the head of her makeshift team, a mix of human scientists and Zarkon archaeologists, united in their desperate quest for truth. According to the old texts, this is where the Founders performed their final rituals before departing. High Chancellor Xerlith's voice resonated in Alina's mind. The tall alien's body shimmered with a mix of reverence and apprehension. Dr. Sanjay Patil approached, his eyes wide with excitement despite the gravity of their situation. Captain, the energy readings from this place are off the charts. Whatever the Founders left behind, it's still active. Alina nodded, her face set with determination. Then let's not waste any more time. We have less than 24 hours before the Earth fleet arrives. As they entered the temple, Alina couldn't help but marvel at the alien architecture. The interior was a vast, open space, its walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move in the dim light. At the center stood a massive pillar of pulsating energy, stretching from floor to ceiling. By the stars, Xerlith whispered, his body pulsing with awe. In all our history, no one has ever managed to activate the beacon of truth. Alina raised an eyebrow. The beacon of truth. One of the Zarkon archaeologists stepped forward, its body shimmering with excitement. According to legend, the beacon contains the final message of the Founders. It was said to activate only in our species' darkest hour. Well, Alina said grimly, I'd say impending interstellar war qualifies. How do we activate it? The team spread out, examining the strange symbols and energy conduits that crisscrossed the temple floor. Hours passed as they worked feverishly, piecing together the ancient puzzle left behind by the Founders. Suddenly, Sanjay called out, I think I've got something. He stood before a panel near the base of the energy pillar, his hands hovering over a complex array of symbols. It's asking for a genetic key. I think it needs samples from both species. Alina and Xerlith exchanged glances. Without a word, they both stepped forward. Alina pressed her palm against the panel, wincing slightly as she felt a small prick. Beside her, Xerlith extended a tendril, allowing the machine to sample his genetic material. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum that seemed to resonate through their very bones, the energy pillar flared to life. A beam of pure white light shot upwards, and within it, a holographic image began to form. The beam that appeared before them was unlike anything Alina had ever seen. It seemed to shift between forms, at times resembling a Zarkon, at others appearing almost human, and sometimes taking on shapes that defied description. When it spoke, its voice echoed not just in their ears, but in their minds as well. Greetings, children of two worlds. If you are seeing this message, then the time of reunion has come at last. The hologram flickered, showing images of Earth and Zarkon Prime. Long ago, our species, the ones you call founders, reached the pinnacle of technological and biological advancement. We had conquered death, mastered the manipulation of matter and energy. But in our hubris, we nearly destroyed ourselves and countless other worlds. The image shifted again, showing scenes of devastation and rebirth. In our final act of penance, we decided to seed the galaxy with new life. On Earth, we nudged the course of evolution, setting humanity on the path to sentience. On Zarkon Prime, we created a new species from the ground up, imparting them with our accumulated wisdom. Alina felt her heart racing as the implications of this revelation sank in. Beside her, Xerlit's body pulsed with a rainbow of colors, expressing a turmoil of emotions. The hologram continued. We left safeguards in place, waiting for the day when both our creations would be ready to learn the truth. You stand here now, humans and Zarkon together, because you have overcome your differences and united in the face of adversity. This is the final test we left for you. The being's form solidified, becoming a perfect blend of human and Zarkon features. You are not enemies. You are not alien to each other. You are two halves of the same whole, created to balance and complement each other. The future of this galaxy rests in your hands. With a final flash of light, the hologram disappeared, leaving the temple in stunned silence. Alina was the first to find her voice. We need to broadcast this to everyone. Now. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. Using the advanced technology of the temple, combined with both human and Zarkon communication systems, they'd managed to piece together a powerful enough transmitter to reach both the approaching Earth fleet and every corner of Zarkon Prime. As Alina prepared to send the message, she turned to her unlikely allies. Once we do this, there's no going back. Everything changes. Are we ready for that? Xerlit's body shimmered with determination. We must be. The alternative is unthinkable. With a deep breath, Alina activated the transmitter. The message of the founders, along with all the evidence they had gathered, beamed out across space. Now, all they could do was wait and hope that it would be enough to prevent the looming catastrophe. As the minutes ticked by, Alina found herself staring at the silent communication arrays, praying for a response. Suddenly, a light began to blink. An incoming transmission. With trembling hands, Alina accepted the call. Admiral Hawthorne's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of awe and confusion. Captain Rice, we've received your transmission. I don't know what to say. This changes everything. Alina allowed herself a small smile of relief. Admiral, I request that you halt the fleet's advance immediately. There's been a terrible misunderstanding, and we have a lot to discuss. As the Admiral nodded and the transmission cut off, Alina felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. They had done it. They had prevented a war and uncovered a truth that would reshape the destiny of both species. But as she looked around at her human and Zarkon companions, Alina knew that their work was far from over. The real challenge lay ahead, forging a new future for two species that had just discovered their shared origins and intertwined destinies. The dawn of a new era was upon them, and its first light was just beginning to break over the horizon of Zarkon Prime. A new understanding. The great hall of the Zarkon High Council buzzed with an energy unlike anything in living memory. Humans and Zarkon mingled freely, their previous fears and misunderstandings replaced by a shared sense of wonder and possibility. Captain Alina Reyes stood at the center of it all, still struggling to process the monumental changes of the past few days. The Earth fleet had stood down. Diplomats from both worlds were engaged in round-the-clock talks, and scientists were eagerly sharing data on the revelations from the Founder's message. Captain Reyes, a familiar voice resonated in her mind. Alina turned to see High Chancellor Xerlith approaching, his body shimmering with colors she now recognized as excitement and gratitude. "I cannot thank you enough for what you've done for both our peoples." Alina smiled, shaking her head slightly. "I just did what needed to be done, High Chancellor." "We all did." "Indeed," Xerlith agreed. "And now we must look to the future. The human diplomats have proposed a formal alliance between our species. What are your thoughts?" Before Alina could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. Admiral Hawthorne had arrived, flanked by a delegation of high-ranking Earth officials. The Admiral's eyes scanned the room, finally settling on Alina. "Captain Reyes," Hawthorne called out as he approached, "I owe you an apology. Your actions, while against direct orders, have prevented a catastrophe and opened up possibilities we never imagined." Alina straightened, saluting. "Thank you, Admiral. I'm just glad we were able to uncover the truth in time." Hawthorne nodded, then turned to address both Alina and Xerlith. "We have a lot to discuss. The revelation of our shared origins has caused quite a stir back on Earth. People are clamoring for more information, more cooperation with the Zarkon." Xerlith's body pulsed with agreement. "It is the same here, Admiral. Our people are eager to learn more about our siblings from Earth." As the three leaders began to discuss the framework for future relations, Dr. Sanjay Patel approached, his eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, High Chancellor, Admiral, you need to see this." He held up a data pad, displaying a complex series of genetic sequences. "We've been analyzing the data from the Founder's beacon. There's more, so much more. The message we saw was just the beginning. There are star charts, scientific formulas, philosophical treatises, a whole galaxy of knowledge left behind for us to discover together." Admiral Hawthorne's eyebrows shot up. "Are you saying there could be more out there? Other species created by these founders?" Sanjay nodded enthusiastically. "It's more than possible, sir. It's probable. The star charts point to dozens of potentially habitable worlds. Who knows what, or who, we might find." A hush fell over the gathered leaders as the implications sank in. They weren't just two species coming together. They were standing on the threshold of a vast, interconnected galactic community. Alina felt a surge of excitement and apprehension. "So what do we do now?" Xerlith's body shimmered thoughtfully. "We learn. We grow. We explore. Together." Admiral Hawthorne nodded in agreement. "I concur. Captain Reyes, I'm here to offer you a new assignment. We're fast-tracking the construction of a joint human-Zarkon exploration vessel. I want you to command it." Alina's heart raced at the prospect. "Sir, I'd be honored." "Excellent," Hawthorne said with a smile. "High Chancellor, would you be willing to assign a Zarkon co-commander to work alongside Captain Reyes?" Xerlith's body pulsed with enthusiasm. "It would be our privilege, Admiral. I believe I have the perfect candidate in mind." As the details of the joint mission were hashed out, Alina found herself looking out over the assembled crowds of humans and Zarkon. Just days ago, they had been on the brink of war. Now, they stood united, ready to face the unknown wonders of the galaxy together. Dr. Patel sidled up next to her, grinning from ear to ear. "Can you believe it, Captain? We're going to be the first joint human-Zarkon crew in history. There's so much to learn, so much to discover." Alina chuckled at his enthusiasm. "Easy, Sanjay. We've got a lot of work to do before we launch. Training, preparations, figuring out how to integrate two very different species into one functional crew." "But that's the exciting part," Sanjay insisted. Every challenge is an opportunity to learn, to grow. Just think of the scientific advancements we could make by combining our knowledge and perspectives. As Elena watched humans and Zarkon mingling, sharing ideas and forging new friendships, she had to admit Sanjay was right. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with unknown dangers and obstacles. But it would also be a journey of discovery, not just of the galaxy around them, but of themselves and each other. The differences that had once threatened to tear them apart were now the very things that made them stronger together. Human ingenuity and adaptability combined with Zarkon wisdom and advanced technology. It was a formidable combination. Captain, Admiral Hawthorne's voice broke through her reverie. Are you ready to address the assembly? They're waiting to hear from the hero who brought our species together. Elena took a deep breath, straightening her uniform. As she stepped up to the podium, facing the expectant faces of humans and the shimmering forms of Zarkon, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. But she also felt hope for a future brighter than any they could have imagined alone. Friends, colleagues, fellow explorers, she began, her voice strong and clear. We stand here today, not as two separate species, but as one united people. The founders gave us life, but they also gave us a choice to overcome our differences, to learn from each other, and to reach for the stars together. As Elena's words echoed through the hall, met with cheers and shimmering approval, a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. The Human-Zarkon alliance would face many challenges in the years to come, but they would face them united, bound by their shared origins and their common destiny among the stars. And somewhere out in the vast expanse of the galaxy, perhaps the founders watched and smiled, knowing that their children had finally come of age and were ready to take their place in the cosmic community. The end was just the beginning.